Welkom bij een nieuwe aflevering van de Data Discovery Channel. En ik switch naar Engels, because we have a guest. And he has a difficult name. Asgeir Gunnarsson?
Yes, perfect.
Wow. And well, you're from Denmark. You live in Denmark, but you're from Iceland. That's the difficult name.
Yes, and it's a very specific Icelandic name. We don't really have it anywhere else.
No. And I like your shirt.
Yes.
And you can't read it probably on the camera, but it says SQL Saturday Iceland 2019.
Yeah, I used to run that conference. When I lived in Iceland, we had SQL Saturday 2017, 18, and 19. I had one planned for 2020, but reasons, things had happened.
Yeah.
So we didn't have it in 2020, and then I moved away, so it hasn't been held since. But it was nice. It was lovely. Great event. Very similar to this, but on a smaller scale.
Yeah, and this is the first time you are here in Holland?
No, this is third or fourth time on this conference. Yeah.
So you like it here?
Yes, I like it here. So.
Okay.
I like Utrecht. Is a nice city, and the event is really good. It is a nice size, not huge, but it still has a good size to it. So it's not tiny.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah,
we have great weather as well.
Yeah. It's in the meantime, yes.
Well, it's still raining.
No, it's not.
Well, yeah.
Well, okay. Good day to spend inside and not being able to do something outside.
Definitely.
Asgeir, the reason why we invited you, and thanks by the way for joining us and making time for us, is that you talk about Power BI, and then not just Power BI as we know it, but when you want to share Power BI with people outside your organization.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think, and if we are honest with ourselves, I think we know that most sharing with externals happens via email or some static means. People export something from a system, put it into Excel, and they send it in an email, or they take a screenshot and send it in an email. So all those classic things. And I think there is a big risk with doing that. So I think Power BI has a potential there to be a more governed way of doing sharing with externals. So instead of just because if you do that, if you do export from a system and put it in an Excel and send it in an email, that data is in an Excel in somewhere else. It's a completely different place, and it
can be forwarded or
it's out of your control.
It's out of your control, and and did you export exactly the right data that fits or did you export everything just because it's easy? So I think there's a governance issue there. But people have a job. Those people, business people, have a job. They have a boss that tells them to do things, and they find a way to do it. And that's typically, an email and Excel. That's the way the world works,
So that is easy for them.
Yeah, and then they have a deadline. They have to do it. So if we don't provide them with something alternative that is good, they find a way.
Yeah.
But I think Power BI has a good place in that, because you can make it dynamic. You can make it, put security on it, and you can make it. So that it's relevant for people, and you can govern it, you can audit it, you can track what happens, and all those different things, which can be really important as well.
Yeah.
And if you could elaborate a bit on how you could, what options do you have in Power BI to give people that controlled access to the reports and the data? Yeah,
so I would say you have mainly three ways so you can share with externals with Power BI. You can. Four. I'm going to talk the worst one first. The one you do. So you can do publish to web. So in Power BI you can go and you can simply say go on a report and say publish this to web, and then it's on the internet, and it's open to the whole world.
It's unrestricted, so everybody can see it.
Completely unrestricted. But you need to have the URL to find it.
Yeah.
Until Google has indexed it.
No, it's a bit security by obscurity.
Yeah. But Google will find it, and they will index it, and they will be searchable. So it's a terrible solution, but thankfully, at least now, Microsoft have this is turned off by default now.
Okay.
It used to be turned on by default, to be able to do it for the whole organizations where we could do it. But now it's off, so. It is still a viable option if you have something you want to share with the world, and it's simply it's fine. It's totally
public
open
information,
and you don't need to have it really nicely presented because it's it's basically an iframe thing, so it's not maybe a fantastic looking, you don't have a lot of control, but it's a very cheap, nice option if you have something for public interest.
Yeah, for example, if you have some weather data or traffic information or stuff like that.
Yeah, I had a customer in Iceland that the fishery authorities in Iceland, they were sharing data with everyone about how much fish had been fished, by which trawlers or boats and all that. And they did publish the web because it was open. Then they ended up not going. Ended up doing a different solution because there's a limitation to it. For example, you cannot right-click on it and export to Excel, which that's a big limitation for many people because people love that. So that's the first one, and it's like probably the least good. And then you can of course just create an account in your tenant and give it to people, and they log in and they as an internal user. So you're a consultant. You have, often we as a consultant we will get an account in another tenant. We log in and we do some development or reading or whatever. But that's not a very dynamic way because you need to create accounts for everyone. And
and if you have a lot of users, then that can add up quickly.
Yeah, and it can be difficult to have a understanding of who is external, who's internal when you have it like that, unless you have a really good naming convention.
Yeah. Okay.
Then you can do it, but it's still simple. One of the drawbacks about that is that if you need a Power BI Pro license or a Power BI Premium to User license, you need to provide that because you're creating an account in your organization. Then you need that.
So it can become very expensive.
It can be, and let's say it's something you typically see if you need the people that are coming into the externals. If they need to be on a device provided by you or something like that. Then you need to do it that way. Because somebody have a conditional access policies or something that requires you to be on a specific device or within a domain, or you need access to a data source or something like that.
Yeah, then that would make sense.
Yeah, then that would make sense. So you typically see it for consultants and those kind of scenarios. So that is number two. And then we get a little bit more dynamic and more complex. We can do guest users. So you can say that if you have a corporate login into your own tenant. So I have in my tenant. If you want to allow me to get into your tenant, you can invite me as a guest. And then I'm a special type of user in your tenant. And that's the pros for that compared to the other one. It's very easy for the Entra ID administrators to distinguish between guest users and normal users.
Okay.
And they can do separate policies that apply to all guest users. So they don't need to pick and choose. So it's really, really good to handle. And within the Power BI portal, there's also loads of tenant settings that are very specific to guest users. So you can say guest user can do this and that, or they cannot.
Okay, so you can differentiate between the guest users and the
normal users. Yeah. So that can give you some good options if you for governance perspective.
And license-wise, how does it work in that scenario?
License-wise, you can do either. So you can require the guest user to bring their own license.
Okay, yeah.
Or you can put a license on the guest user.
Okay.
But if you put a license on the guest user and they also have their own license, then they're double licensed. There's nothing tells you that.
Okay. It's not saying from a pop-up saying, "Oh, you already have a license, so
it's
perhaps
because it's in the other tenant."
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but most of the time when you have guest users, you require them to bring license with them, because that's just
bring your own license.
Yeah, bring your license. It makes more sense, and that's also like a big plus with guest users. It's that you can require them to do that. But they need to be like have a corporate login. They need to be a business to business. You cannot have someone as a guest user that has a Hotmail or Gmail or something like that.
Yeah.
It has to
be that's the corporate login.
Yeah. They need to have a proper tenant. They log in, and then they can come over to you. And there are a few of the settings that are really important. If you leave everything default, then they can log in, but they won't see any navigation. So they won't see any navigation on the left side.
They only see the report that's being shared.
Yeah, they either see if you have a direct link to a report, they will see that, or if they just go into the tenant, they will just see the start. It's a home thing. If they had opened reports lately, there's going to be a list of recent.
Yeah.
But they cannot navigate anywhere. So if they need to go to a specific workspace or something like that, they need to have a very specific URL where they have like the tenant ID as a parameter in there. It's very complicated and not
That's why you said it's more complicated. Yeah.
But
Okay.
you can turn on browsing, and then they can browse it as they were in their own tenant. And if you turn on browsing, which is a really good thing, then also you have there's a tenant switcher. So in Power BI, if you click on your name,
login.
Your name, yeah.
there's a button there that says switch tenant.
Yeah.
And then you can switch tenants to other tenants you are a guest user in, which have turned this browsing on. But only those who have turned browsing.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And that's a nice experience for the end user. They can just go to that tenant, they can browse, find whatever they need,
And then flip back to your own. Yeah.
But of course, there are some instances where if you have people, a customer or a vendor that just needs to read a report, they can get a direct link. They don't need to browse anything. Sometimes that's even a worse experience to browse, because you need to, you see all kinds of things you don't want to see. So you might want to turn this on like selectively, only for a certain group of people. To say that these people that need to maybe create something, they are a guest user with browsing. But those who just need to read, they are just a normal guest user. They cannot browse the tenant. They just get direct links to reports, so they do not disturb or that So they don't have all kind of other noise around it. So, but it's there are also working. Very recently, they came up with a. It's called. You can work on the semantic models in your own tenant. So you have a semantic model in the tenant you are a guest in.
Yeah.
And then you are supposed to be able to open Power BI Desktop and point it to a model in the other tenent.
Yeah.
So if you go to if you're in Power BI Desktop and open get data from one lake. Well, one lake, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is all everything in the Fabric tenant.
Yeah.
Then there's one new tab that's called external or something like that. And you go there, it should browse all your external tenants and see what you have there.
Okay.
I did demo it this morning and it didn't work. So
Okay.
and I tried it yesterday and the day before and it didn't work either. So maybe
okay.
it's a work in progress there.
But in theory, you could then publish a report in tenant A that uses data from tenant B.
Yes. So that's the whole idea here is that you can have data here, you can create your own reports on it, but publish them into your own tenant.
Yeah.
You can do it today, but because what you can do is when you log into Power BI, you can go in and on the login page, you can say another user instead of clicking on your own user.
Yeah.
And then say then there's a button at the bottom that says login options, and there you can say a specific domain.
Login as of yeah.
And you need to type in the domain, and then you log into then you use your normal login, but you are going to go into that guest tenant.
Yeah.
It's complicated, and it's not something you want to offer people that are not consultants like us. We can figure it out. And of course, people with guidance, they can figure it out, but it's not a nice experience.
You don't want to do that multiple times a day.
And it is actually even worse than that, because if you have done it once and then an hour later the token will expire, and then you need to do it again.
Have to do it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And what's the fourth option? I heard 3.
Yes, the fourth option is use Power BI Embedded. So it's a very, very specific solution for embedding. It's a capacity. You buy the capacity in Azure, and then if you have the capacity, then every consumer doesn't need a license, but you cannot go into the Power BI portal. So you need to build something. So a website or an application or something, you put it into there.
That's why it's called embedded. You can embed it in a website, for example.
And it has incredible flexibility. It's amazing, but you need to code it from scratch. Microsoft has an embedded playground, so with a lot of examples. So it's not a good web programmer. It will not take them more than a day to create one site with a. But if you want to brand it, and you because you can do incredibly nice solutions in it. Where if you come in, you will see this brand. If you come in, you will see that brand. Like branded portal, and you can do all kind of fancy stuff with it. And in theory, you control everything because it's a JavaScript behind it. So where you can say if you click on this column in this report, then this form should pop up. Making you fill out something, or you can do whatever you want with it, and you can track every single click. So you could, if you want to understand, which part of your graphs are people clicking on, or what buttons do they touch? You can track it all in that, because it's just APIs and everything is tracked.
Now, we started this conversation with a lot of people share reports by just exporting it, putting it in an email. How can you get them to use these features?
Yeah, so I would say, so there's different scenarios that work with it. So the embedded solution in the end, that works by far the best if you have loads of consumers that maybe don't have a corporate login, or you don't want them to they can have a user pass login or no login or something like that. That works really well for that. But if you are like in a business relation, or a vendor or a customer, so that's the most
I want to share a report with you.
Yeah, that's the most typical scenario. So getting people to do it is, I don't think it needs to be that difficult, because when you have created a report, sharing it is actually very, very simple.
Yeah.
What you need to teach people is how do they recognize that a user is an external or internal? So how do they also so they don't accidentally share with an external user?
Yeah.
So how do they recognize that is? And then of course create some processes around it. So if you are sharing with an external, what do you need to be aware of? What do you need to think about as a user? To be aware of these things. And also I think it's really important if you're doing external sharing in any way, is to have a lifecycle plan. So when the consultant is done with his job, when a vendor is no longer supporting us, so how do we then close it down so we don't have open access for a vendor that we don't support anymore, or a customer that has left?
Basically, you need governance on it.
Yes, yes. and think about that beforehand. That would be lovely. I know it's not always like that. I have a lot of been focusing a lot on governance in Power BI in the last few years, and I typically start talking to an organization when everything is a mess.
Of course, because then when it becomes important, right?
Yes. Yeah.
When it's too late already. Yeah.
But when if you want to do like external and you're thinking about it, then think about these things from the beginning. That would be lovely.
Yeah, because you gave quite a few options on how you could do that.
Yeah.
But if you look at the average company that is going to move towards external reports, what are then the most common pitfalls that they come across?
So I think the most common pitfall is the not handling the life cycle of external users. I think that's actually what is the biggest one. So what I see very often is that they decide to do it, and then they have external users in, and then forget all about it.
Yeah, and then they just roll with it, and then at some point things change, and then
and then another pitfall is that the ownership of those reports or semantic models that are to external users, they tend not to be clear. So there's a vendor that needs to have a report, and someone in IT builds it, or someone in the business does it, whatever. But there's no clear ownership on it, or they need to actually update it and change it. It's just, and then there's the vendor or a customer or whoever who is contacting their contact, and then we're not clear on how to actually. There's the life cycle of the report as well.
It's also governance, in fact. Yeah.
I hear a lot of governance here.
Yeah.
Because that's what I see sometimes as well, that they stop using it because it's not relevant anymore, and because it's not been maintained, and they don't know who to talk to. And
if nobody cleans it up, then it stays there forever.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, a lot of options.
Yes.
A lot of things to think about before you start using those options. So I think the viewers have an idea of how they should prevent sending reports in an email, which is good. So thank you very much for your clarifications. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
And have a good stay here in Utrecht.
Thank you.
Voor jullie dankjewel voor het kijken. Als je het een leuke video vond, like hem even. Subscribe op het kanaal als je dat nog niet gedaan hebt. Dan weet je altijd wanneer er een nieuwe aflevering is. En tot de volgende.